Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Whadjuk Noongar land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Mauri. Along with Rob Dowles, we organise monthly events called Politics in Republic for the Fremantle Network. What comes to mind when you hear the term University City? When I think University City, I think Berkeley, I think Oxford, I think Adelaide on a good day. I think of places where you can go and see philosophers talking in cafes, or you can go out on a Friday night and instead of meeting foreigners who came on cruise ships, you meet them because they're studying abroad. Okay? I think of going to different places throughout the community, bowling, movies, but also lectures. Even if you're not a student, you can go to a university and feel inspired by the local intellectuals. These are all of the things that I think of when I think of a university city. Now ask yourself, when you hear the term university city, do you think Fremantle? Isn't that funny? Isn't that a thing? Okay, so this is what we're here to discuss tonight. We're not here to discuss lectures or workloads or research or anything along those lines. We're here to discuss the relationship between Fremantle and Notre Dame. Okay? This is what it's all about. You have many questions, you have a great deal of input. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. My only request is that you remain bubbly, friendly, joyful. Okay? This is a fun time. If anybody wants to throw a lettuce, throw it to a right. Okay, so that will be the only time I do that tonight. So here's going to be the layout. I'm going to introduce each speaker, say some words about them. If you need to get a drink, just do it, because otherwise you're going to bombard the free staff members when you all bum rush the stage at the same time. Okay, so just get a drink, go to Patani if you need. When the speakers are done, we'll have a short break, and then we can come back and you can all ask questions, give your ideas. Okay? How does that sound to everybody? Sounds fun, huh? Brilliant. Okay, so let me introduce our first speaker, Professor Francis Campbell. So Professor Campbell is the current Vice Chancellor, which means boss, for those who are not familiar with universities, of the University of Notre Dame. Prior to this, he served as the Vice Chancellor at St. Mary's University in London, and he didn't put this in the bio, but he was the diplomat between the United Kingdom and the Holy See, which means the Pope. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Francis has an immense diversity of experience, including as a career diplomat, and has lived in the United States, Poland, Belgium, Pakistan, Italy, Ireland, and has been enjoying life in Australia since his move down under in 2020. Please welcome Professor Francis Campbell.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Christian has told me that I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to protect you from 6 minutes by looking at the stopwatch so that you don't have to ring the bell. But it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Stand further over here, okay. So already the first instruction. You see, he's put me directly in Raoul's eye line, just over here. But he's under strict instruction if Raoul's to get boisterous, like what they used to do with Dr. Paisley in the European Parliament, he used to go outside, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. So just firstly to address the direct question. Is Fremantle a university city? The answer is yes and no. And I'm not giving you a diplomatic or a political response. But it's yes, it is a university city, but it's also much more than a university city. It's a heritage city. It's a city where the port plays an active role. It's a city where tourism plays an active role. It's a city where healthcare plays an active role. It's a city that has a colonial heritage, and it's a city that has a rich heritage beyond the colonial period. So it's something where the university plays a part, and where the university is proud to play a part, and certainly wants to play a prominent future part. But like any university city, the university is but one part of the ecology. And Christian's talked about places like Oxford and places like Leiden and Leuven. And this is something about the history of this institution. So the history of this institution and the founders, some of whom are still on our board of trustees, when they thought about a University of Notre Dame, they wanted to choose a site where it would not be a greenfield site, where they could have something of, dare I say, as a European dimension to a university, where the university would be breathing in and through buildings, that it wouldn't be placed on the periphery, and it wouldn't be artificial, but actually it would be built on a heritage place. They travelled to Leiden, they travelled to Leuven, they travelled to Cambridge, and that's really what they thought. So when they decided on the west end of Fremantle, they decided to build a university basically based on something that had a rich history. That's what we have today. We have something where there are around 7,000 students and around 500 staff that live and breathe in the community. And in an independent study that we commissioned, looking at 2020 alone, the contribution, both economic and social, is around 242 million of what those students and staff contribute to the Fremantle economy. Now, that contribution is a start, but if we look towards the future, it's something that we want to build on. It's not something that we want to stop short of. So, in the 2 minutes that I have left, this is the strategy that we launched the middle of last year. And that strategy has 5 pillars. One of them is around integral human development. And that is about the totality of the development, both personal, societal. It's not about us as individuals or us as an institution being atomized. It's about what we do in the heart of the community, opening up our spaces, bringing further life into Fremantle, driving towards greater numbers of international students. We do not have an ambition to be a volume provider. So at the moment, our total landscape across Australia is around 12,000 students. We would envisage growing that to around 15,000 students. That is still one of the smallest universities in Australia. We believe that if we did grow further, we would lose something of our DNA. We would lose something of the pastoral care that we have to students and something around the small class sizes. And we believe that when we look out internationally, that there are many fine universities within that size between 12 and 15,000 students. But we do want to see international students coming in. We want to see those international students enriching the experience and the diversity of what we have. And that's why one of our pillars is universality. And that is that we are one of over 2,000 Catholic universities spread across the world. Our distinctiveness is about our approach to education. It's built very much on the Newman-esque model. And Newman founded what is now the University College Dublin, but his vision was around Oxford with small class sizes and a small size where students are formed, not just academically, and it's not just about the acquiring of knowledge, it's about how they're formed in the society and the community. So I'm over my 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and I leave it there rather than have Christian ring the bell. Thank you very much.
Can we just have a moment for people to get comfortable if people are waiting outside? There we are. Ah, Freo, hello, welcome. Okay, is everybody comfortable? Lovely. Okay, our next speaker is, of course, Mayor Fitzhardinge. So, you can applaud. Is that your mum? Hello, Joe. So, Mayor Fitzhardinge has had a career spanning leadership development, corporate public affairs, government approvals, and strategic communications. She has been involved in advocating for developing and improving the city of Fremantle since she first joined council back in 2016. Her passion, determination, and collaborative approach is what drives her to want to create a city that students want to learn in, businesses want to thrive in, and people want to live in. Please welcome Mayor Fitzhardinge.
Thanks, Christian. And I'd also like to acknowledge we're meeting on Wajak Noongar Puja, pay respect to the elders who've kept this place for many generations, being the amazing place it is. Like Christian said, I'd also like to pay respect to my elder, my mum, who's here tonight, and actually had a history with Notre Dame. When I think about Notre Dame, I love this microphone. this way, I've got to stand this way, I'll just speak to you guys here. When I think about Notre Dame, I do think about the long history it's had with Freo and how transformational it was. So Mum set up the Italian and communications programs at Notre Dame, and that was our first real encounter with the university when I was a bit younger. So Notre Dame was transformational in terms of some heritage buildings that actually, I don't know what they would be today. But we're entering, I think, a bit of a new era. We had an MOU for a bunch of years, $75,000, it doesn't go particularly far. And I was hoping the Vice Chancellor might mention this so that I'm not speaking out of school, but he said to me the other day, MOUs are kind of what you do when you don't intend to do anything. And he's kind of right. Like, you've got something to announce. We signed an MOU. We're going to understand each other. I don't know if we're going to sign a memorandum of doing, but that is the conversation that we want to have. We want to have a conversation about doing some actual tangible stuff in the city. We're not going to change the state government legislation that says that universities don't pay rates. I can't see it happening anytime soon. If anyone's got the magic bean that does that, let us know. So how do we get value for us in a win-win way with the university? Because we want the university in our city. So there's a few things we're working on, and I thought I'd just run through them pretty quickly. Student housing is a big one. So the strategy of the university is to bring more students here. Not tons of students, but enough to create that vibrant, dynamic and international community that they want, and we want. Gentrification in Freo is a real challenge at the moment. So if you're lucky enough to own a house, that's great. It's worth a lot more now. But if you don't, and you want to rent, and you're a student, or you're on a fixed income or a low income, things are really tough right now. I don't need to tell you that, right? And we know that there's a bunch of students who come in every day to Freo and then leave. At 4 p.m. we see them all head off to the train station. And we even hear that some students live up at the colleges, up at UWA, and catch the bus down to Freo and then back to the colleges. And that just seems sad. At the same time, we need these students in our city. We want more foot traffic on our streets. We want hospitality workers, like desperately. People ask me, why is this place not open on a Tuesday? And it's literally because they cannot get anyone to open on a Tuesday for them. We are really short of people who work in a lot of our key industries. We also want the university town vibe. As Christian said before, that feeling that you're going to go and debate intellectual topics in a bar on a Tuesday night and go to a bookshop and buy a book, and that whole feeling that a university town has, that's what we want. So student housing is something I think we agree on with Notre Dame. It needs to happen in the next few years. Spreading out of the West End. So the concentration of Notre Dame for us in the West End, initially probably a really good idea, but for us spreading out of those sort of that enclave in the West End means it's not such an on-off feeling. At the moment, I think when there's students there, it's on, and when there's not students there, it's kind of off. We also don't see the students dragged through the town as much as we would like. So we're really interested in how can we spread out the footprint of Notre Dame. We know that there's a few properties in the West End that they've divested from, which is good for us. They go back to big rateable properties with the P&O Hotel, and ICS has moved in opposite Darling. There's some good sort of mix happening on those streets. But for us, it's also how do we pull those students right across town? So the Fremantle Oval redevelopment project is a really major project that we want to get going in the next few years. And we're having conversations to say, students need green space. We have an oval. There's no one using it during the day. What might that look like? It's right next to the hospital. What might a health precinct look like? We're short of childcare in Freo. You guys do early childhood. Is there anything we could do here? And is this the right place for student housing? Conscious of the bell, I'm a bit nervous, Christian. So that's exciting to us. The other thing is that we are more than just a university town as well. So we talked about, are we a university town? When we were setting up the conversations for our strategic community plan, which you might have heard us talk about, Harvey spoke about it last month at Politics in the Pub, people said, well, hang on, it's not just university. I mean, you've got schools moving into Fremantle. We've got a studio school that came to Freo because their students wanted to be able to experience all different types of work across Freo. And they were like, where else would we do this but in Freo, where you've got a vet and a creative arts producer and a PR company all within Kui at the school. We've got our established schools. We've got programs for, the arts, for marine science, for specialist sport programs. So we have to think of education in its entirety in Fremantle and how we can grow that. And we need to look towards jobs of the future. So as we move towards the future of Fremantle, like the future and also the future of Fremantle beyond when the port maybe leaves us, and we have to think about what is it that we're doing in our economy. Are we doing more things to do with the ocean? Are we doing more sustainability orientated things? Are we doing more innovation orientated things? Please tell me we're doing a whole lot more creativity and arts orientated things. We need to think about what is the pipeline for people to get those jobs in the future, and how do we keep all of that pipeline here in Fremantle. Is that the bell? Last drinks. That was harsh. So the only thing I'm going to say is my final little pitch to you while I have the microphone, is we are running the strategic community plan process. This is one of our major topics during that conversation. Things that happen at the pub or happen on Facebook don't actually make it into the consultation process for the strategic community plan, much as we would love them to. Please go online to Let's Talk Freo and include the thoughts that you have let simmer and bubble up today. Go into that forum. Also, Cassie and Carvey are over there, and they're going to grab you in the hallway and ask you what you think about Fremantle as a learning city. So please be nice to them if they do that. Thank you.
I'll just draw everybody's attention to Cavi, because he does wonderful work. So if you would like to talk to him about the strategic plan, he's over there in the corner. Just building on something that Hannah said, I speak to so many people in Fremantle who are thinking about going to university. They're like 25 years old or 35 years old or 45 years old, and they've never been to a university lecture, and unfortunately they might never go until they enroll. Imagine if you could just say, well, it's Wednesday, there's a great lecture going on at 5 p.m, let's get a coffee and go check that out. Wouldn't that be incredible? Oh yeah. It would, wouldn't it? Well said, Chrissie. Hey, speaking of Chrissie, may I welcome our next speaker, the new CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. She's just arrived, Chrissie Mouse. So when I ask for bios for speakers, I always say 3 to 5 sentences. I think your assistant's name is Jesse.
Yep.
He sent, I'm not joking, a short story, like a full-blown short story. And I had to...
How embarrassing.
Well, he loves you, clearly.
Yeah. I'm a bit more.
Thank you. So I cut it down. So this is the abridged version of Chrissie Mouse's stunning biography. Chrissie Mouse was most recently the general manager, which means CEO, of none other than the largest retail and entertainment precinct in Australia, Melbourne's Chapel Street. Earning her stripes in TV and radio over 20 years, she's gone on to carve out a reputation as a captivating speaker. This is all stuff Jesse wrote. Accomplished marketer, trusted non-executive director, and cheeky industry trailblazer.
He did well.
He did well, didn't he? His earning was crossed. She is a fellow of the Australian Marketing Institute, an alumni of the Williamson Community Leadership Program, and a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, and of course, the newly appointed CEO of this great Harbour Cities Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Any introductions? Jessie can stay another week. She's done a very good job there. I want to premise what I say tonight to say that I have not been in Fremantle for 10 years. I arrived back in Perth 15 days ago. So what I'm going to say to you tonight, please know that it's with fresh eyes, and please know that it's been done a little more formally by me tonight, because I want to make sure what I get out tonight is right. And I hope you feel what I feel and want to convey to you tonight. So just 15 days ago, I walked into the Freo for the first time in a decade, and it would be fair to say that I've fallen in love again. Seeing the Notre Dame students spilling out onto our streets is like seeing blood pumping through a heart. Stepping into Fremantle each day, I felt like Alice going down a rabbit hole. It's truly a unique part of Australia, and the soul of Fremantle has seduced me. Good evening, my name is Chrissie Mouse, and I'm the new CEO of the Fremantle Chamber of Commerce. We too often teach our students our wisdom, but they can teach us a lot too. What type of businesses do they want? How might we reimagine our businesses in our community to serve them? Thank you for that line. How might we capitalise better on Notre Dame's ex-students and future-proof our city? I have 5 minutes. Have you started? When did you start? And I'm going to get straight to the point. Notre Dame means 100 sandwiches, it means 1,000 coffees, it means extra laughs and an extra community soul woven into the tapestry of our community. A cup of coffee isn't just a coffee. Many of our business owners watch our students grow, and most importantly, right now, they benefit from their part-time services, working behind the bar or working in a cafe. Many of our businesses, like Mayor Hannah said, are struggling to find staff. That is one of the number one things that I hear every single day. So Notre Dame feeding into our businesses is integral right now. So Notre Dame works hand in hand with our community, and tonight I want to tell you that Notre Dame is also our lifeline. The students are making a real difference to our businesses' bottom line and small business owners' livelihoods, and I think we all need to be pretty clear about that. Every single student, every dollar that they spend is keeping our businesses alive right now. If we took away Notre Dame, we would take away our future leaders and a considerable amount of revenue from our businesses. As a leader, I'm always thinking, what are our unintended consequences? And I think we need to make sure we always ask ourselves that question when it comes to Notre Dame. So tonight, I'm asking you this question. I want to hear from you. How can our businesses better serve our Notre Dame students, and how can we better foster our leaders? As a student, I spent lots of money on vodka lemonades, chicken and salad sandwiches, vodka lemonades, coffee, vodka lemonades, and snacks within ECU's campus up at Churchlands, and we know that doesn't exist anymore. But every dollar that I spent there could have gone back to a business, and I could have been interacting with a real community. My study was removed from the real world, and Notre Dame is putting our students in the heart of the community. So the difference between Fremantle, or down the rabbit hole as I call it, is our ability as people, individuals and leaders to be authentic and unique. We celebrate each other's differences, idiosyncrasies. We can be different and we can be proud about it. I would argue tonight that any city without a university will struggle to survive. We don't have to look far to see this in the Perth CBD. I hear us being called University City, and the Perth CBD is envious, yes. And so they should be. Notre Dame University has called Freo home for 30 years, and the Perth CBD has been very slow on the uptake. They have seen that Notre Dame has provided a microcosm to keep our businesses alive. And if you really take one thing home from me tonight, it is the fact that our students work with our business and the economy, and that is something our Perth CBD want, and that is why ECU, everyone there who has a business, is advocating so hard for it. So, I also want to remind everyone that we do, as the Fremantle Chamber, provide discount cards for the students. And you know when you get a discount card and you think, oh, this will only give you 10%, we actually give them up to 30% discount on over 700 businesses. And every time a student comes here, we make sure that we look after them and harness them. So I don't know how much time I've got left. 1 minute, well, that's easy. I didn't want to talk about student accommodation because I know that Mayor Hannah will talk about that in more detail. But I do want you to know that I understand that policy has a far-reaching impact, and I'll always consider part of my duty as the CEO of the foundation and, sorry, let me say that again. I'll always consider fierce advocacy for our port city and for Notre Dame the primary function of my role. Thank you very much.
How many Notre Dame students do we have here? Hold your hand aloft if you're a Notre Dame student. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's what? No, current. We've got 5 Notre. Oh, there's like 100,000 up there. 100,005. Okay, so when I was looking for a student speaker, I contacted Mignon, who's head of journalism at Notre Dame. And when I called her, she said, the most amazing thing just happened. I just met another Mignon. There's 2 Mignons in Fremantle, and they're both at Notre Dame. So she spoke very highly of you, Mignon. Since meeting, I can see why. So here is your bio. So Mignon du Plessis is a 3rd-year student at the University of Notre Dame, majoring in mathematics and medical sciences. She grew up in rural Western Australia before moving to Perth to complete high school, an experience which has inspired her to pursue a career with a health focus. Brilliant. Mignon is a member of the elite athletic pathway and a representative of the Fremantle Soroptimist
Yes.
there we are, group and the Notre Dame Student Association. She hopes to bring a student voice to the local political stage and encourage young people like her to enter the discussions about topics and ideas that directly affect them, their families, and their communities. Please welcome Mignon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a little bit less poetic than the last speaker, and I'll keep this nice and short. So much of the appeal of Notre Dame, I would say that it is less of a university town and more of a learning town, because Notre Dame within itself offers so much to every single person which visits Fremantle. What I'm talking about from that perspective is that yes, Notre Dame has come in and renovated a lot of the old buildings, kept a lot of what it means to be Fremantle, but Notre Dame within itself wouldn't be the same without Fremantle, without the locals, without the businesses and the communities and the cafes supporting us. As much as we love to be on campus and giving to the businesses, we wouldn't be here without you guys. So much about what it means to be a Notre Dame student is the fact that you can leave a lecture, you can walk down the street, head into your favourite cafe, have a coffee, then go to a tutorial, then come out, go for a swim at the beach, then head to a restaurant afterwards with your friends. A lot of other students that I know that are currently at university aren't as lucky to have had this experience. I know that for myself, when I initially came to the university, a bit of a shock to the system. I mean, you have to interact with people that are outside of your niche. You're in high school, you're with all your friends constantly, and I know that a lot of my friends have carried that through with themselves as they've entered university. But for me, being able to step outside of your comfort zone, that is the premise of what it means to be a Notre Dame student. You're focused on what you can apply and what you learn. And so being able to go to a cafe and communicate and have conversations with people that aren't students of your age, that within itself develops such important skills and what it means to be a leader of the future. As well, the focus on the whole person paradigm. So Notre Dame providing a lot of support, right? That is really, really focused on the West End. As a student, not that we feel we can't kind of, I guess, inject ourselves into other parts, but because our university is located in such an insular part, we want to be able to explore Fremantle as a whole, but feel sometimes that it's a little bit too far. And what I mean by that is students don't live on campus, they don't live in Fremantle, they're not lucky enough. Parking is another thing to talk about. So a lot of the rural students, like myself, we will catch the train or the bus in. A lot of my discussions tonight will be about how can we encourage students to stay in Fremantle. Yes, we come in and we do our lectures, but then we leave. A lot of the nightlife, especially in the weekday, as much as it's supported by students close and around their tutorials and lectures, it isn't sustained. And especially we can see that on the school holidays or on large university breaks where, especially during the week, those cafes, businesses which are heavily supported by students, they're desolate, they're empty. So I really, really want to encourage more students to come into Notre Dame. I know that just being there, we've encouraged more students to try and come in and learn about what it means to be in Fremantle, learn about the history of the campus, learn about the buildings that we're lucky enough to be in. From a student's perspective, you feel like you're part of a wider community that knows something that some other people don't. You get to go into certain buildings which have been renovated, which have been restored, and that within itself is really, really special. So I think it's really important that we take what the students have learned from their experience growing up in this very, very quickly evolving society, adapted with the history of what it means to be Fremantle as one of the oldest suburbs in Perth, and use that to work towards, a sustainable future that encourages students to stay, that encourages the continued support of businesses within Fremantle as a whole. So that's me.
Fantastic. What a brilliant night. You all brilliant, great questions. A huge thank you to the local hotel and to our amazing speakers. Chrissie Mouse, Mignon du Plessis, our Professor Francis Taylor, and sorry, something in my throat. Francis Taylor.
Campbell.
Sorry, again. Francis Campbell and Mayor Hannah Fitzhardinge.